Welcome to another edition of Maverick University. I'm your host, David Hallberg. Joining me today is Dr. Keith Gomez, the founder of Providence Baptist College, pastor emeritus at Northwest Bible Baptist Church, back with us just for a brief time to teach at the end of the school year and to help us out at the college. And I appreciate you being here.
Joy to be here. Pastor emeritus means that we've been put out to pasture, like the old bulls that they're about to shoot or send to the slaughterhouse is what it is. But anyway.
You got this looming feeling over your head all the time. When is it going to drop?
Absolutely.
I want to talk with you about just your ministry experience as it pertains to being a seer as a pastor. The pastor's supposed to watch over his people as a shepherd and trying to watch for trends, try to maybe even get ahead of the curve. I mean, you can't always do that, but you're always trying to foresee some problem and try to correct it, preaching preventive messages, or actually pinpointing an issue and preaching on that topic before it gets worse. And I want to talk about compromise when it comes to maybe an individual, maybe when it comes to a family, when it comes to maybe a fellow pastor, and you're like, whoa, what's going on there? And you're kind of foreseeing some things, and so you don't end up getting hurt later down the road. Can you talk a little about that on your experience of dealing with that in Northwest Bible Baptist Church?
Yeah, well, the Bible talks about the lean on a tree. It's where it's going to fall, and I don't know. God, I think God has given me some. I think God's given everybody somewhat of discernment, some more than others. I watch trends, and I watch individuals' dress styles, hairstyles, words. I can normally tell what a child or person is doing and what they're into by their speech. Their speech betrays them. So I watch those trends. I have been very blessed of God to have a discernment for 40 years that I've only had a few preachers that I have ever had that got off the reservation, that I would consider got off the reservation, went another way or messed up. And God's allowed me to do that, and I appreciate that. I really do, because I don't want to put people before my people, preachers or anybody, leadership, before my people that's going to go belly up. I don't want that, because once, just like music, David, you over music, once you introduce a song, if it comes from someplace where it shouldn't, but it's a good song, there's nothing wrong with the song, and you can clean it up, they claim, sanitize the thing. Doesn't make it right, because they'll follow and find out who wrote that song and follow that artist, and then they're off the reservation. So you got to be careful of that, right? Well, when you put people before your people, they will end up following those individuals if you're not careful. And I've only had a couple that I think I've been disappointed in 40 years. That's a pretty good record. But I always watch for that and compromise. So in preachers, my daddy used to say, son, don't ever tie your dog to every sausage. I had no idea what that meant, but I think I know what it means. Just be careful who you run with. And he used to say, tell me who you run with, I'll tell you who you are, blah, blah, blah. That's an old wives' fable, but it's true. It's a Bible principle behind it. So I've been very careful about my friendships, and people can say whatever they want. I think I'm a friendly guy. I just don't think I'm friends with everybody. When Dr. Buchanan hired me all those years ago, he said, Keith, I've watched you so closely. He said, you're friendly to everybody, friends with almost nobody. What he meant by that was that I don't see you hanging out with them. You're not going to the house. You're not eating with them. When you're doing that, you're too close, and then they can influence you. And he said, I need somebody like you on staff. That's when he hired me. Well, Brother David, I have no idea where you live, sir, and you worked for me for quite a while. I know in the area and the town that Brother Hall lives in, I don't know where he lives. I don't know where Brother Anderson lives. These guys worked for me for all of these years. I don't interject myself into a man's personal life. Y'all know what I believe from the pulpit. I've hired you. I'm trusting you're living what I'm preaching, what that Bible says. I trust you that much. But I don't want to. I'm not a dictator. But I watch, and I could tell if y'all are compromising. I could tell that, right? So you watch that for leadership, but in a layman's point, you got to understand that we as pastors, we need to have ecclesiastical separation. I ain't holding hands with nobody trying to fight the abortionist crowd if they don't believe what we believe. Catholics don't believe like us.
Absolutely not.
They're taking an absolute right, strong stand against abortion. Thank God for them. Go for it, man. But I ain't joining you. Now, and I can be criticized for this. Go have me for lunch any way you want to. I ain't going to lose a half ounce of sleep over this. But, us Baptists can get together, believe right, and we can stand against abortion crap. But I'm not holding hands with Catholics or anybody else. I remember Dr. Hiles years ago said, I never get around liberals. He said, you cannot compete with a liberal. They're just too nice. He said, and you get around them, you're going to really, really like them. And they're going to influence you. You're not them. So I always very careful about who I chose to be my friends. And Bible talks about, not being friends with an angry man. And I've seen that. But I've also seen compromise ecclesiastically. They run with the wrong crowd. And they're running with people that are leaning left, doesn't have much standards, personal standards we can get into too. But since they don't have personal standards, they don't have any standards in their church. So ecclesiastically, I'm not going to get involved with them. They're still my brother. I still love them, will help them any way I can, but I'm not preaching for them. Well, they're not preaching for me. I may preach for them. And when I preach for them, I don't necessarily going to cover that subject, because me coming in just for a couple of days is not going to change that preacher. I'll sit across the table from him, and we'll go at it, and I'll try to convince him this is what you need to believe scripturally. But I'm not going to try to convince his church, because he's pastor of that church, not me. So I'm careful in the liberties I take in a man's pulpit like that. But there's something about personal separation that we need to be separated from the world, and that's not dress. A lot of people think that's all it is. It's not dress. We're just in love with this cosmos too much, man.
Yeah.
We're not keeping an eye on the prize. We're not looking up to Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. That's the thing about it. I mean, I love what we have. I mean, man, we got a lot of. This earth is a wonderful place, man, and we have a whole lot of fun. And God is not against any of that.
Yep.
But man, you can't love this. You got to love Him. And understand we're just passing through. We sing those songs. I don't know if we really believe it. So one day we're going to stand before Him. Then we're going to have to give an account for all this. And if somebody thinks we're extreme, I'd rather be to the right of that, understanding that at least I don't have to answer for that if that is wrong. So I'm playing safe.
Yep.
With the ecclesiastical separation and the personal separation. People will compromise personally because they want what they want, and it's my will, not thine will. And that's where the personal separation gets really muddy. So, when the Bible talks about the old paths, it's not that they're removing the landmarks, they're mudding the lines up. Well, you don't know where the lines are at.
Yeah.
See, I think we heard a message this past week about moving the landmarks, and they can do that. They're not removing them, they're moving them. And I got that. That's no doubt happening. But also they're mudding the lines. This is what happened in homes a lot of times, uncompromised. Dad will lay the lines out. This is the line. Isn't it a shame that we're actually setting up things for our puppy dogs in the yard and putting a collar on? They can't go past that. I was at a place that dog would not. He would go to a certain point and stop, and I said, "Y'all got one of those invisible fences?" He said, "Yes, sir." He said, "That dude will not cross that line." Well, when a dad sets up the parameters of right and wrong in the home and separation of the home, mom's got to back that up. But when you muddy the line, those kids not knowing, where to fall. So it's got to be very distinct in the church. You got to stand strong in that area. I think a lot of times where the compromise and the red flags that I see on compromise is because we're not honoring the old men. I'm not quite sure what's wrong with this generation. They're either intimidated, they're insecure. But man, we're not bragging on the Seitlers and the Malones and the Hiles and the John Rices and those that came before. Not man worship. We're honoring men. They're our heroes. Not Michael Jordan. Not these the king, whatever his name is, the basketball player now. Not the sports guys, but the preachers. Man, we can't honor them and know them. And that's what I was talking about in chapel even today. That my little wife Kim. I mean, she sat and she heard Dr. Roloff constantly. Her daddy was deacon at First Baptist Church in Hammond for all those years. She heard Roloff all the time. She heard John Rice all the time. She heard Jack Hyles weekly. John Rice, all those guys, Seitler, all those guys. She heard all of those great old men, Curtis Hudson, all of those old great men for all those years. That has an impact on young people, and preachers talked about them often. That, man, this is where they're net. What I preached a message years and years ago on restraining influences. So all these great men, Bob Jones Sr. and all these men had specialties. You got it?
Sure, yeah.
Roloff, you would not say, man, I was sitting around watching TV the other day. You wouldn't talk like that in front of Roloff. He hated the thing.
Yeah.
He thought it a one-eyed devil, man. You wouldn't talk about watching the latest movie to Roloff. That was restraining influence.
Sure.
It caused us to pull.
It made us better.
Made us better.
Yeah.
See? So then you had Bob Jones and the Congresses and how he would do things, and then you had the Hyles in the pastor school, and you had Rice in the Sword, and he had all the, Robertson and a big church there, and the things you do, Southwide Baptist Fellowship, and all these different things. And because of that, they all had their specialties. You wouldn't sit around and talk Jack Hyles about Calvinism. He was a soul winner, right? Restraining influences. So every one of them, because of the way they stood and stood strong, pulled us more to the right. And we're losing that.
And that's why we are what we are.
We're losing convictions, and we're compromising. So we have guys today I call, I talk about Falwell before he fell well. We got modern-day Falwells today that are taking a whole generation of fundamental independent Baptist boys another direction. And they think it's good because it's peaceful. Ain't nobody got to fight anything. So much for earnestly contending for the faith once delivered. We don't care about that. We care about how we feel. And when our wives begin to dictate to us, we really got a problem. That's what's happening today. The women are running the show anymore. Got this spirit of Jezebel in the fact that they're going to control the situation, control their husband, control the pastor, control the church. We couldn't do without our ladies, but we need spirit-filled, godly women that are helping push us to do more and great and keep the lines. The women, the mamas are the ones who cause their daughters to compromise in dress standards and stuff of that nature and loving the world more. That's where the mamas got to stand strong, real strong on biblical.
You were talking about blurring the lines, and my thought was, you have a pastor who's preaching, and he's preaching a line, right? A pastor sets up a standard. He preaches a certain way. He preaches, "Thus saith the Lord." And what can happen is sometimes in the home, preacher said that, but we're going to cross the line. So you've got a line at home, you've got a line at church,
right.
You've got a line at school, and a kid just can't handle that kind of confusion.
Double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. There's no way, Brother David, that the home should be extension of the church extension of the home. And the home has got to back what the book says. If the preacher's preaching some crazy stuff, that's another thing. But most of the independent Baptist preachers I know are straight. They're straight on this stuff if they love God and love the book. So what the family's got to go home, and this is what happened. Well, the preacher said, I ain't worried about what the preacher said. God said. The book said. The preacher just preached it. Okay? So, and sometimes when you say that, the opposite or the opposition will go, well, he ain't God. And then when the kids hear that, you just cut that preacher's head off. And you keep killing the heroes in a child's life, there's somebody out there that's waiting on him. And they will run to them every time.
Yeah, and there you go again, killing heroes. We're not talking about the old men of the past. We're not talking about, we're not praising the pastor who God has given us.
Right.
And you're not talking about man worship.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I despise that. And there's a lot of that went on in times past. And it's to be a sickening kind of, really is. Because Norris had that same thing happen to him as Brother Hyles and different strong leaders like him. And those guys went off the Richter scale. Those guys that were so like man worship type thing, they're gone. The guys that honored him, and I know them because they were my pastors, they honored Dr. Norris. They all did great works for God, but they were not man worshipers. They were just they honored the man of God. So this happens, but somewhere we've got to honor the truth that's being preached, and understand that there's some red flags with your children, with your wife, with husbands. A preacher that's pastored and he got any sort of discernment, he can stand in his pulpit and know immediately when a woman is leaning, when a man is leaning out. You can see it on their face. It's so revealing. It's like, just go ahead and tattoo it on your stinking forehead. I can tell, man, you're on your way out if you're not careful. You better get right with God. That's why we have revivals.
In the past, you've talked about, and correct me, I may be misremembering exactly what you said, but you're talking about something about someone's hands, their feet, and their eyes.
Yes.
Were those the three, I think?
Yeah. If you study Proverbs, that's what we're talking about. You got to watch a man's hands, watch his feet, watch his eyes. When you say certain things, you can glance and body language. A lot of it body language. Look to the right, look to the left. It all means something. Looking up, you're thinking different things. You can study some of that stuff out. Some of it's pretty accurate on that. But the Bible talks about a man's hands, his feet, his eyes, and so you got to watch those things. And I do watch it, and I can tell a shady individual sometimes by watching that. And that's what, brother, and that's what bothers me a great deal when I'm in chapel and I'm nailing stuff down. People say, "Man, he's so mean." No, I saw something that's extremely dangerous, and if other kids begin to copy that, we're in a lot of trouble. So you purge that out. It's like your health. When you got something wrong with you, you try to get that thing out of your life, that virus or whatever, right? So today, even in chapel, kind of got rough with two of those girls. Talked at the beginning. I looked and I stared at them. They knew they shouldn't have been talking. And then eventually, as I continued, one of them put her head on the other one's shoulder and went to sleep. Well, I got to think, okay, well, she might be working a lot. I'm going to give her the benefit of the doubt. And then at the latter part, when we were doing question and answer, they were just talking out loud, just talking. See, that's total disrespect for the Word of God and for the man of God. I'm 71 years old. I don't need a stinking punk kid showing disrespect.
And no one saw all the grace that you gave throughout the whole sermon, the whole morning.
No, they never saw that. They never saw the shot across the bow, never showed the warning. And if they're going to still, just, I hate disrespect. I hate disrespect, and that's rebellion. That's what it is. So, you got to purge some of that stuff, and it needs to be done in our homes. It needs to be done in our churches. It needs to be done in our Bible colleges to keep it where it belongs. A lot of Bible colleges are trying to keep their numbers up, and they'll take anybody, anytime, any shape, any form to keep their numbers up and pay the bills. We don't have to have that here, because 40 years now here, and then turning the keys over to Dr. Cavanaugh the other day, everything was paid for. So it's not like we have to have any money to pay for anything. The money's there already because there's no debts. So we don't have to compromise. And I had an old preacher say this to me years ago: if you never want to compromise, don't get in debt. And the first thing I thought about is, why do I have to compromise if I'm in debt? That's all I thought to myself. It'd be a cold day where the booger man lives, because I know I'm gonna have to borrow money and build buildings. So we'll be in debt, but I'll never compromise. I'll resign, go back to Swamps, Louisiana, and make tons of money in the swamp. I can do that, but I ain't compromising.
Was there some truth in that statement?
Yes, there is. Absolutely. What he said was true. I just said, for me, that ain't true for me. Just like I was told that, the transition, you got to just be careful, because, he's going to have people preach that you would not have preached, and you're going to have to just watch the gradual decline of the church. That's what I was told. And I just smiled. In my heart, I said, that probably will not happen at Northwest. I think just about everybody he'll ever have, I would have. He's not going to have some screwball. And the church is not going to go down. It's going to go up, because my people were trained right for 40 years, and he was too. And he has a great heart. He's a lot more diplomatic than me, so it's going to go up. So you don't answer old man. You don't rebuke an old man like that. Just listen to him, shake your head. But I just want to make sure that things go right here. And
we're over time, but I want to ask one more question. What is one of the earliest signs in a ministry? Maybe it was a pastor friend or a ministry that you were acquainted with, and they took a left. What was one of the earliest signs of that turn? Was it did it happen in a visible way? Did it happen? Did they throw out their King James Bible first? Did they throw out their standards first? What What was it? A lack of soul winning?
Mm-hmm.
That predicate? What was the predicate that led to a turn in ministry?
In some cases, well, I'll give you several scenarios because there's different reasons why people do that. Mm-hmm. First of all, it's who they read after.
Sure.
How sad. It's how sad they won't read after old books. You know, we got Dr. Green, Oliver B. Green's library. Mm-hmm. Those old books. We don't just have Dr. Green's books, Dr. Green's books. We have the old books that he was in. So we're reading after young, new, whatever. And we got a lot of good stuff going on. Dr. Cora's putting out some great stuff.
Sure.
And different people are putting out some great books, new books.
Yep.
But the old paths, you go back and read. So it's who you read after. And a lot of the independent, fundamental, Bible-believing Baptists are reading after evangelicals who have some good truths. And that's quite, but if you're not careful, you'll end up with them and like them. So that's one thing, readability and reading after the wrong people. Second, if it's hooking up with the wrong people. Mm-hmm. You know, my dad always said, show me who you run with, I'll tell you who you are. And I think that's a Bible principle. He was just a wise fable, but he was, and so I was always careful who I hooked my sausage to, right, or tied my dog to that sausage. But also what bothers me a great deal with some of the preachers is their sons will go off the reservation.
Okay.
PKs will go another direction, go the rock and roll, take Baptists off their sign, get the lights dim. Mm-hmm. You can't fool an old boy like me who's saved off the street. We know what a stinking bar room looks like, and that looks like a bar room to us. And that's the atmosphere they have. So what the daddy has to do is either swallow deep and say, my son's off the reservation, but I'm the prodigal father, and I'm staying home, hoping my prodigal could come home. When the prodigal father follows a son out in the far country, that boy has no home to come to. And so that's what's happening a lot. Now, I know a few that hadn't gone that way, thank God for them. Because if their sons decide to do that, there ain't nothing you can do about it. They're grown men. They got to go. But stay home. So a couple of them that did that, followed their sons out of the will of God, took Baptists off the sign, and now, you know, they just kind of, and they claim, I preach just as strong as I used to. Well, okay, but there's more to it than just yelling and volume.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. And then, but, you know, some of them they'll show no sign, and some of them that'll do it. You would never, ever bet that they would ever go that way, ever in their life. You got to be careful of, you need to be careful of screaming about everything and settling on one thing. You'll become what you preach against the most if you're not careful.
Unbalanced is what you're talking about.
It's crazy. Yeah. I've seen it over and over again, where a guy just will settle on something, and he just can't get off it. He just, but then you'll become that. It's crazy. It's like you fixate on it. It's got to be balanced, man. That's a balanced book. You preach that book. You preach down through that book. It's a balanced book, and you won't get off course. But anyway.
Well, thank you so much for coming in, Preacher. I appreciate everything you said.
Enjoyed
Very helpful to me personally, and no doubt to everybody else as well.
Enjoyed being here, Brother Dave.
And make sure you check out our other episodes on YouTube. Make sure that you like this video. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel and also the audio-only podcast platforms as well. God bless you.